If I could pick my favorite aircraft, I'd pick the helicopter. Why? It can go anywhere, move in almost any direction, and take off and land in the most difficult situations. Man has always wanted to fly, and the versatility of the helicopter has allowed him to reach unexpected heights. Plans for a helicopter were created with CATCHA 3D, design assisting computer software. It takes 700 hours of work between the drawing stage and assembly of the pattern. The helicopter is made of carbon fiber, a composite material lighter and stronger than steel, protected by 2 layers of green plastic. The fiber is cut with a blade controlled by ultrasound. They lay on several thicknesses of fiber to make the rear fuselage. The green light of a laser helps position the parts. Then with a heat gun, they apply a beehive web, which increases the solidity of the structure. But the carbon fiber is still soft. To harden, it must be washed under pressure for 10 hours in this autoclave oven at 177 degrees centigrade. The pieces exit the oven and head for machining. The door of the motor housing is kept in a cutting jig and is shaped with a manual shaper. Before installing the parts in place, they strike it with a resonance hammer to detect any faults. Next, the electrical harness is mounted on a pattern before being installed in the aircraft. This particular helicopter has 2,351 meters of wiring, but others can have almost 9 kilometers. The wiring will be connected to the flight instruments panel, the brain of the helicopter. This aircraft has 9,964 rivets, fastened with a gun and a ram. They also apply a sealant to prevent the infiltration of corrosion creating humidity. They now assemble the helicopter's rear fuselage. Piece by piece, the aircraft takes shape. They will install mechanical components later. The motor arrives. This one weighs 120 kilos and has to be carefully handled. Among the other parts to be installed is the circular plate on which the blades will be attached. Safety is primary. The screw nut holes are perforated, allowing the insertion of the brake cable. This tightly braided metal wire prevents the nut from loosening due to strong vibrations. Now they bolt on the 4 blades which make the helicopter fly. Weighing 41 kilos each, they're made of composite materials and an aluminum alloy. They're attached to the main rotor. The dashboard is installed in the cockpit, and all the wires are hooked up. Contact is established, and all is functioning properly. Nothing remains but finishing the interior of the craft. They install seats, safety belts, the consoles, bulkheads, windows and doors, as well as the trimmings. The helicopter is almost completed, but it still has to be painted. When done, the helicopter is towed outside the assembly hangar. Flight tests are performed to make sure that mechanical and electrical components are functioning properly. It requires an average of 110 days to assemble the 3,419 parts of a helicopter like this one, and they turn out almost 185 units each year. These 2.8-ton aircraft are capable of reaching speeds of 140 knots and flying at a maximum altitude of 6,096 meters. Ancient people brewed this flavorful beverage with malted barley and hops. Today we use much the same ingredients to make beer, but with a production technology that's miles ahead. Beer has been drunk since 4000 BC in Mesopotamia. The Sicaru made it as a sacred beverage from grains but without hops. The Gauls and the Celts drank a beverage made with barley, wheat, and rye. During the Crusades, Europeans discovered spices and flavored the beverage with cinnamon and laurel. In the 15th century, Nordic peoples used hops as a spice, giving rise to the beer that we know today. Beer is a fermented beverage made with cereals and water. The barley used in making beer comes from the western provinces, with the malting being done elsewhere. The company has its own water filtration plant. It will be refiltered before being used to eliminate chlorine. This materials tank can hold 80,000 liters of water. Between 10 and 15 tons of malt and another grain are added. They use dark malt, which has been heat treated to a high temperature. The preparation will spend 2 hours here. An agitator prevents malt husks from settling to the bottom of the tank. Turbulence from the pumps during the transfer causes the formation of this protein foam. The wort is in the process of being extracted and will be boiled. About 5 hours have passed since the brewing process began. Here they draw off a sample since they'll make other control tests at various stages of brewing. This is the draff, a solid residue extracted from the wort. It will later be used as cattle feed. Here's a close-up view of the draff. Then the liquid is filtered. Here's the filtration tank where the wort is separated from the malt husks. A sample is withdrawn from the wort heater to verify the density of sugars and the quality of the wort. Now another ingredient, the hops, is added into the wort heater. The hops impart the bitterness and aroma particular to beer. The hops looks like this. Now they can start the brewing. In the control room, an operator handles the data control system of the brewing process. They add in the yeast, which starts off the fermentation, a process that lasts between 7 and 10 days. This foam indicates that fermentation has begun, and sugars will now transform into alcohol. Each fermentation tank is computer controlled to maintain a specific temperature. During fermentation, chemical reactions create the scum that we see. Now aged for 3 weeks, the beer is almost finished. We see here the bottling tanks. The beer has to be filtered once more. Exiting these filters, the wort is clarified, then rid of the components responsible for the cloudiness of the beer. Here's the beer filtered a second time, and finally finished as a clear product. Used bottles are now washed. After their wash cycle, the bottles have become sterilized. Empty bottles arrive on this plate, ready to be filled. About 1,000 bottles a minute are filled while on the move. Then they pass to the capper before being sent to the pasteurizer for pasteurization. Only 2 steps remain. Labels are glued onto the bottles, then they're sent by the conveyor to be put into cases. Made Made from water and cereal grains, the beer is now ready to be consumed and enjoyed.